30 minutes, and any questions that we don't get to live will be followed up with after the webinar, but just go ahead and ask them and we'll save the Q&A for you, and we'll follow up with you individually. The last note, this webinar will be recorded and it'll be made available to all of you within 24 hours. You'll be able to share it with anybody else on your team that you need to share it with. So that's it for me. Let me now turn things over to Roman, and he's going to show you what's in the new release.
So thanks, Mike. Can you guys hear me okay? Just making sure.
Yep.
Okay, great. So what we're seeing here is an example of a new dashboard within what I guess we're calling it Integrify Plus. Mike was kind enough to design this dashboard. So we have the My Open Tasks widget that you guys are all familiar with some enhancements here. We also have a new ways to display key performance indicators, which have been also enhanced. And now we've got a bit more flexibility in the HTML panels, especially around control with CSS of formatting. So overall, I think what you can expect to see is sort of a cleaner, faster, more responsive user interface, a bit more modern looking, a little bit less white space, more workspace. The design tools for things like dashboards have been changed and improved. For many of the general menus that you're used to using under view my requests, monitor requests, the searching and filtering there has been improved and updated. We've got new configuration options for APIs, and there's now a wizard to help guide you through single sign-on setup, which may be something that you've already done, but it's available if you need to transition. We've also made several significant changes on the back end of the application. I'll let Tim speak to those a little bit later that will sort of that we'll be able to talk about. I'm not as familiar with those pieces. So here we are on what we're calling the Trillium Employee Portal. So this is kind of a general purpose employee portal. Down here, we've actually got some clickable square panels. These are now sample buttons that I can use to drive a workflow. This one here, this unfortunate round one, is my attempt at creating a round button. Never was able to get the text to center, but I think with a little bit more work we do. But this launch panel here is more representative, is a great representation of what we're bringing into the launch panels in terms of buttons. This each button type has a primary color for each theme and a secondary color for each theme. So as we change the themes here, these colors will follow along correctly. And then you've also got a block style button, which I'll demonstrate how these are created. They're created via a wizard within the dashboard designer. These actually stretch all the way across. So in fact, I think if I show you, not this one, it's actually in a different environment, but basically these would stretch all the way across. Maybe I'll reconfigure one. Here we've got monitor requests, much as you remember it. The filters are still available. The interface has changed a little bit. Now you've got an icon where you can basically drop down or pick what's going on. You can see maybe only in progress requests, and it will update immediately. And then at the bottom, we've got sort of an early HTML panel and our classic reports that we're creating. So this is, some of you may remember, if you've been through a sales demo with us, you've seen the Graysmith Industries CapEx request. That's actually the basic report that we show to a lot of our new prospects here, but very much similar. You'll recognize the same design interface. It's going to work all very much the same. Now let's go to things like request details. So even on this report for My Open Tasks, we've got improved searching and filtering here. So if I can look for something like franchisee, I know I've got several franchisee onboarding requests. Here's one that's coming through. We've got some additional filters. Maybe I would clean that. Yeah, but I've got several. In fact, I've got several that are completed. Maybe one that's just open. So we've got the ability to search across several different columns. This search screen, or rather, this search interface allows me to search several different fields. Let me try the word announce. There we go. Announce new franchisee. So I can also search by the task name as well as the workflow name. So, and I believe also status. So let me try something like onboarding, which is a common status word. Yeah, we've got the description here, and I think we're also possibly searching by the request status currently. So a lot going on there in terms of new features. Additionally, for all the reports, both the built-in ones and the ones that you can create in the reporting engine, you can now get high-level details for each of the requests without having to follow the link anymore. So basically, I can open it here and I can see onboarding change request for Joan Howard. The process is onboarding, what category it came out of, what version the process is, when the process was modified. So you can get high-level details about which particular process or version process you're looking at, that kind of thing. Where would I look for the, if I wanted to launch one of these requests, where would I look for something like that? So we can do that. Dashboards are still available, but you'll see that some of the menus have been reorganized here. So in fact, dashboards are now accessible from a completely different area. So we now have the gear icon here, which is shown to administrative users. And these are many of the system settings, many of the areas that you would have seen under system settings or under the admin menu on the left-hand screen. The admin menu still does exist and we'll bring it back, but it can now be collapsed. I'll just show it briefly here. So it still exists, but you can actually choose to have it stay out or slide back and disappear when you're done. Also the same with the bookmarks. Bookmarks and recently visited still function as they did before, but now you can pin them if you want them permanently visible or let them slide back out of view. But to dig down a little bit deeper into dashboards, let's explore dashboard design. This again should be pretty familiar from the previous version. You have the ability to add a dashboard, edit a dashboard. Here's one. The controls are the same in terms of creating. However, there is also, let me point out, since all of you who are on current versions, there is actually a way to, I believe this is a migration tool here that creates a copy of this particular dashboard. I may be wrong. Let's see here. Add a dashboard. Possibly, maybe this just copies now. I think at one point this had a slightly different title to it. But you can, in fact, pull dashboards forward from previous versions with minimal effort. So here we've got an example of the new dashboard editor. This is the default dashboard that I use for most of our sales efforts. So here we've got a launch panel with a widget embedded in it. We have a new editor that is still WYSIWYG that allows us to come in here and add objects as we wish to. Now for this particular dashboard, if I wanted to at the end here add, we have this new icon here to insert a template. And this specifically refers to the new buttons that we can create. So if I want to create a link to a report, a link to a process, I have templates here that will basically insert themselves into the HTML. I'll pick one. Let's pick a block size button for a secondary request. Here I can actually, this is just a preview. I click save, and what it's going to do is insert this in here. And if I switch over to the source code view, I'll see that I've got this new tag here, this paragraph block and this button name, and I can put my new button for new process in here. And I won't go through the process SID. I'm going to assume that you're all familiar with where to get the system ID for the process from the process detail page. If you just paste it in between these single quote marks here, this button will be fully active and ready to use. So let me save this. Also, there's also an additional control here on the dashboard editor. On the dashboard editor, changes are not instantaneous. You do have to click so that you can try out several different layouts before you decide that you want to save this particular change. So the change we've just saved now is this new button that now reaches across this panel. I'm not sure that this was something I would do in production, but I just wanted to demonstrate this button style for you. We also have the ability to create different dashboard layouts for different screen resolutions. Won't dive too deep into that, but we do have that ability now. So as we add widgets, we not only choose the old classic widget types, but we can also say, I want one that is appropriate for a small to large phone, a large phone or tablet, or even an ultra wide screen. So depending on what your audience might be for a particular dashboard, you might want to customize the layout for the hardware that they're going to be looking at it with. So we've got the button template tool. And the configuration menus, next item here, that's probably enough about dashboards for today. I think the rest of it will be very familiar, but let's talk a little bit about the, not sure about that, Mark. Yeah, in terms of screen size, I'm going to let Tim speak to that a little bit later. I think he's got a little bit more information than I do. We probably both will learn something at that point. I think you can choose a different layout, but I'll let Tim speak to that accurately. But for now, let me talk a little bit about some of the new options and some of the changes that have been made under system settings for those of you who are probably administrators of your local systems. System messages, as much as before, you can have a message of the day that can be put up on a scheduled basis. System settings, pretty much as you remember, the list of configurable options that you want to do. Password settings, holidays and business hours are now located here. Database sources, translations. One new setting or one new object here is API keys. Access to the API is going to be a little bit different, but now you have the ability to completely set up API keys self-service, whether you're on-premise or in the cloud. You can now generate new API keys that can expire on a certain date. So if you've got security policies, I'm going to say Sam's. I'm actually logged in as one of my helper accounts, Sam's new key, and I will generate my key here. And the thing here is this key, I can copy this key value directly here, and we've got a little reminder. Once this private key disappears from the screen, you can't retrieve it. You'll just have to create a new key. But anyway, this is fully sufficient to create your own secret keys for your environment. They'll be unique to you, and then you'll copy that value off to a secure location and use it for access to the APIs. Single sign-on settings. I'll just briefly cover this. I'm really not an expert in this area, but there is now a wizard interface that will step you through the different steps that you need to do to successfully configure SSO for a new instance. So that's going to be pretty good. Now getting back to APIs, which I am a little bit more familiar with. I'll skip over these two for now. We'll come back to them in just a second, but I'll just jump to APIs. The APIs are now documented from within the site here. So depending on what you need to get to, so here's authentication. Authentication, the APIs are not going to change all that much. You actually can now test APIs from this interface. You can set up an authorization with your local key, much as you would if you were working with Postman. You would put a bearer authentication token in here, click the authorize button, the system will accept it, at which point that token will get passed to all these other keys. You can actually also delete API keys that you've created or verify that a particular API key is functional and still usable in the system, and quite a bit other settings. So the intention here is not to, I don't believe any functionality was removed, but maybe some of the functions might look a little bit different now in terms of the new options. Finally, and then we'll also look at, we can also track what the active sessions are. So especially if you're on a concurrent license basis, you can now see actively what active sessions are being run in your company. So currently Sam Cook has 2 and Rich has a couple of sessions as well. So you can see what sessions are currently running so that you can see who's logged in, maybe ask them to log out if you need to. So that's quite a bit there. In terms of the other screens are pretty much the same. The process designer, the forms designer, they are going to appear pretty much the same. The overall search and filter for the screens that you use to get to them are going to look a little bit different. But when you drill down to a specific form, the form designer is going to look very familiar. It's going to be very much the same as it was. Similarly with the process designer. So, no major changes there. Quite a few of the changes are, in fact, in the internal architecture of the system. That will also pave the way for future improvements to the system and sort of future-proofing us a bit in terms of what's available. Here, we can also, in terms of, you can also still personalize personalize with your company logo. We know also display it throughout the organization so that all the menus display it accurately as well. We now have this new icon where you used to be able to click on this upper left-hand graphic, I guess, to return to the main dashboard screen. We now have the home icon, which leads you there. And then you also have the parallel lines that lead you to the administrative menu. And of course, I think as I mentioned before, you can now collapse these menus if you're not using them. So if you want the screen space, these menus now collapse while you're operating on the dashboard or if you're working within the text of a process. So let me kick off a process here. This should look very familiar to anybody who's familiar with version 7 within the system. It's going to work pretty much the same. So that's kind of, I think, most of what I wanted to share with you guys today. I believe that it's when it's time for your upgrade, someone from the support team will be reaching out to your administrators and will be providing a time frame for when the upgrade is and what the upgrade might involve, any information about what to expect. If there are any deeper details, and actually to follow up on Mark's question about the dashboards, I'm going to turn it over to the next speaker, whoever that might be.
Well, we'll let Tom and Tim handle any questions that come in. But if this has unearthed any questions for you, please go ahead and post them up on the Q&A panel.
So one of the things that was brought up was, when exactly is mine going to be upgraded and how will I be notified? You'll actually get an email from me that's going to tell you, you might have received an email from me already that says, hey, these are the things that are down the line. Well, once we have the exact date that we're going to be migrating your system over, you're going to get a notification from me that tells you not only the date, but the time frame as to when it's going to happen. We estimate that it's going to take anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes, depending on how big your database size are. And that's on the high end. For the most part, your team won't have access to the system during that time, but it's going to be happening during off hours, late at night, with minor disruptions. And if the time frame doesn't work, reach back out to me and let me know, and we will work around your schedule. It's going to have all the details that you need to see within that email. But if you do have any questions, reach right back out to me and we'll get everything taken care of for you.
Let me answer. This is Raman again. Let me answer quickly the question. The upgrade does not impact guest accounts in any way. I believe there might be a slightly different infrastructure to accessing them, but the guest account feature still exists and will be completely available in the new version. And I don't believe there will be any impact on the upgrade to work that workflows are in progress.
Yeah, there shouldn't be any interference with currently in progress workflows.
Mm-hmm. Tim, maybe you have an answer for Ekta about the links to the guest accounts. I know at one point, due to some of the browser restrictions, we had to upload a file for servers in the cloud so that the request appeared to be coming from the Integrify domain.
Right. I'm taking a note on that one right now. I'll have to verify that this is the case, but it shouldn't be an interruption. But just the fact that it involved the guest account with, as you mentioned, browser security, that kind of thing. I'm gonna take a note to verify that and to make sure that we're solid about kind of the answer that we're giving out there. So I'm taking a note on that one right now. Please be patient. I'll confirm that one.
Any more questions anybody has? I just sent a link out to the full list of features and changes that's out on the help site right now. You can see it in the chat window. And please share that with anyone internally that you think would benefit from it. All right. I guess unless you guys, Tom or Tim or Roman, have anything else to add, I think the questions have dried up.
No, and should you have any questions you think of afterwards or any concerns or, hey, I'm wondering about this feature or that feature, feel free to shoot me an email, give me a call, whatever you need to. And if I can't get the answer for you, I will find it for you and get it back to you.
And just to add from kind of the tech side of things, a big focus that we had in going into this new version was upgrading to more solid, supported, secure web technologies. Just to kind of make for a better experience all around. So hopefully, what you guys are going to see in the future is a much quicker turnaround as far as any kind of changes we want to see, that sort of thing. So, yeah. But yeah, so hopefully we're going to see some really good things going forward.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining. We'll send the recording out so you can watch again the demonstration. And any questions that we didn't get to, although I think we got to all of them, any questions that require follow-up, we'll definitely send out to everybody on this call to make sure that you get the answers you need. All right. Thank you everybody for joining us. Have a great day.